bad boy right here should look pretty good, right? We'll have to cut the back end off. Usually you want to take your vehicle mudding after you do the lift, not before you do the lift. Yeah. We gotta stop filming. This is too hard. Welcome back to Brothers Fab and Adventure. The Renegade here needs some new struts, so we're gonna take care of that today, and we figured while we're at it, we might as well give it a lift.
So we ended up getting some Bilstein B8 Terrasport struts for it, which should lift it 1 inch, and then a Tera-flex 1.5 inch lift. So we'll see how this goes.
To get this project started, we went ahead and took the plastic cowl off, which was only held on by a few plastic clips. Then we had to remove the windshield wipers, which were held on by a 17mm nut, and they take a pretty good little yank or a bit of force to get them off, but they do come off without too much issue. The wipers were here and here, and the nuts are under these black caps. We just put them back on so we don't lose them. Now we're gonna have to remove the strut.
So once you get the wheel off, the next things will be to disconnect this little clip that holds the brake line on there, and then it'll slide right out. And so this one's the same way. Just kind of pull it out of there. Take the sway bar off, and then these 2 bolts here, and then we'll be ready for the top bolt. So you need an 18mm on the back to hold it, and the 18mm socket.
Jeez.
It was just dirty.
Sway bar disconnected.
A E18 and a 16mm to get the bottom strut bolts out.
Flying dirt particles.
Probably should have glasses on. One of the bolts is pretty tight down here, so removing the 2 bolts to the wiper regulator helps move it right out of the way. And then I'll move right out of the way for you. Next will be breaking loose the top strut bolt. They're a E14. They're fairly loose. There we go. We're all around.
There we go.
Boom. Yeah. That was easy enough. Now we got to compress the spring so we can take it off and put it on the new strut. Let's try this.
We've never done this before. Looks like it's compressing.
Now.
Don't point it at me. The bottom one is.
There it goes.
Yeah.
Alright, I think we got the pressure off the top now.
Yeah, so we should be able to undo the nut on that.
Can you hold that? Got that strut out of there. And here's the new one. We're going to reuse the bump stop and the boot in there. And there's a little rubber piece down in here that you got to put in. But here we go. Let's put it back in here. Now the top cap goes on there. It's fairly tight. We may want to try to orient this out. Now to release it, everything looks lined up there. Yeah.
We're just getting the bottom bolt of the sway bar link here removed so we can put the new one in before we put the strut back in, because it'll be a lot easier to access now than later. And that's especially important because this really is a stubborn bolt, at least for us anyway right now. So as you can see, there's not really any room to get any power tools in here, and it being really dirty I'm sure doesn't help at all. Just gotta keep fighting it till you get there.
And the first part of the lift will be the spacer on top of the front coil here. And the open part will go towards the outside. You can see it's kind of to the outside there. And blue Loctite on these. And then you'll torque them to 45 foot-pounds, I believe.
Oh, it's very awkward. Get a little more planted.
Come on, Pop, come on.
We gotta stop filming. This is too hard.
Now we can reinstall the strut here, and we'll just go in backwards here.
Not clearing in the bottom there. We might have to put the bottom in, dive it, and then put the top in.
Yeah, something's gotta.
Yeah, I'd try to put the bottom into this little pocket here.
Into here, maybe.
Oh, in front of the arm. Okay.
You might be right if I can get it in there.
Into
I
the
just
middle.
don't know that it's gonna go down that far.
I mean, it's worth a try, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. We've tried the two other ways. Oh, that might be the trick, though. Can you get it in from there? Come down more. Oh, maybe. We got to turn the steering out of our way, probably, huh? Here, I'll try to hold it. Okay. You gotta go in a little more.
Can you hold it down here?
Yeah.
Like, put
Try to
bolts
get
in?
some nuts. Yeah, here, I got it. I'll pick it back up when you're ready. Justin's just gonna get the
Upper bolts in there.
upper bolts in there. He's putting some Loctite on them right now. Yeah, yep.
Okay, twist it counterclockwise.
Like that.
Nope.
Other way. Okay.
Oh, a little bit less.
Okay.
In.
Little wiggle action. We got the new strut back in there. It was a little bit of a struggle. Took a combination of moving the wheel back and forth to line the brackets up with the knuckle, as well as some pry bar shenanigans and trying to use a jack to pivot the knuckle in to get the hole lined up. We got alignment bar through the bottom hole first, and then we kind of jacked up to tilt the knuckle inward to get the top hole aligned. Then we got our bolt through, popped the alignment bar out of the bottom, and got the bottom bolt through. So needless to say, it's a little bit of a challenge there.
Seemed to go all right though.
Yeah. The main problem was that the lower arm, the only arm, the arm doesn't drop down low enough to just put the thing in there. We're just getting these lower strut bolts torqued down to 74 foot-pounds and then another 90 degrees. Okay, that's 74. Another partial. We also got the lower end of the sway bar link back on the sway bar there, and it got torqued to 54 foot-pounds.
It got tightened pretty good.
Because you got to hold the back side of it with an Allen head and turn the wrench. I don't know how we would get that torqued properly.
This side's done, and on to the other side.
Oh, we got to do the upper bolts to 45.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do that real quick, and then we're done with this side. Good to go there. We can move on to the other side now.
All right, that seems to be working. We really struggled with that. This time we loosened it while it was all the way attached. Don't take it all the way off because it'll explode here. It'll make it a lot easier once we get that spring compressor on there to get it all the way apart.
Tires back on it and put it back on the ground, and you can see there's a pretty substantial difference between the front and the rear. There's at least twice the clearance from the tire in the front fender than there is in the rear here. Now that we got the front end all finished, we got the Renegade all turned around and jacked back up, and we removed the rear tires. So we figured we'd take the opportunity and show you the tires we're going to be running on this thing. This bad boy right here should look pretty good, right? We'll have to cut the back end off, maybe push the rear axle back a little bit to make it fit, but it'll totally be worth it. Just kidding. This is definitely not going on here. We are about to get started on the rear end, so we're gonna get after it now. Went ahead and disconnected all these lines here, and he's working on pulling the little plastic clips off the inner fender. And we gotta take that out to get access to some other stuff in here. There it is. Yeah. Yummy. All right, well, that's out of the way. Let's look at what we got going on now. A couple bolts up in here, it looks like. I'll probably have to get this out of the way to get to some of those.
Helpful in
Dying battery. There we go, just getting the clips off of there so these lines have some freedom. Taking that thing, and we're adding some relocation brackets to it. Bottom out first, there we go. So that wire's kind of holding it up there.
I'm gonna start out with getting the sway bar disconnected here. It's a T40 on the middle and then an 18 on the outside. So I think that's not good. That's not how you do it.
That's definitely not going to help us the rest of the journey here. You can tell that bit just snapped right off inside of there.
Next step is to remove the control arm bracket here. We'll use a T14 or E14
as well.
We've loosened the main control arm bolt as well.
It was 16 millimeter on this.
Next here is the exhaust bolts back here.
It's 13 millimeter.
Well, it's supposed to be an E thing, but I think we changed them out when we
did the receiver hitch. It's supposed to be an E14. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we might be able to just pull it down and get it to. Yeah, see, we got this little tab. Next is going to be the bolts holding these big guys on right here, and there's another one back here. As you notice, he's got safety glasses on because we live on dirt roads and it's that time of year. Usually you want to take your vehicle mudding after you do the lift, not before you do the lift. Yeah.
Now we can lower the whole assembly down enough to get our spacers in up here.
We basically lower the jack at this point.
Yeah.
And that's like the whole axle sub-assembly kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're all ready to lower the vehicle now, so Justin's going to be my eyes since I can't really see what's going on.
All right, that's probably good.
Lower the axle, jackass.
Yeah, that's pretty good there. Go in. There we go. Cool. We'll put our long bolts in and torque them to 100 foot-pounds.
Okay, that's one. There we go. That's both of them, so now we just got to do the other side. We'll spare you, you know what it looks like.
Now to put this spacer in above the control arm bracket, it says to put a bolt in to help you start it, so I should be able to just slide this in.
Bolt holding it up there.
Hold that in there. And then
now we just got to torque them to 45 to finish that part out. We're just getting the spacer and the bolt in for the exhaust bracket drop down there. Getting the spacer installed for that little ABS sensor wire bracket there. Went ahead and removed the bolt holding on that ABS sensor wire bracket. Well, we got the new spacer in there, so that's whatever. Now it's time to take the strut out. So I'm gonna start with these lower bolts, which is 16 millimeter and an E18 reverse torque spit. There we go. I'll pop those totally out once I release the top bolts, so there's not any weight hanging off of them basically. And now for the E14 bolts, the 3 holding the top on. Now it's free. Now we just got to get the bolts out of the bottom here, and the whole thing will come out without any issues. All right, got our bolts out. So now we can just kind of push this back into this cavity and then drop it down in the What's that? Now we just got to swap the spring onto the new strut as well as this mounting bracket, add a spacer for the lift, and that's pretty much the gist of it. Now that we got the struts out of the way, we can get the brackets on for this canister here. Relocation brackets.
There's one up here and then one behind here. Now that we got the canister back in there loosely, we're gonna start installing the spacers for the strut. It should be a number 8 Allen, but I don't have one of those, so I have a 5/16. Yeah.
These strut spacer bolts are going to get torqued to 45 foot-pounds. All right. Should do it.
For the strut, we found it easiest to loosen the top nut with an impact before we get it apart.
Yeah,
and you want to go slow with it. You don't want this to come apart.
Yeah, but basically the spring pushes against it and it keeps it from spinning. You just do a couple burps at a time.
That's about what we get. That's about what we get. So we'll put the spring compressor on it and then use an Allen wrench.
The final step, once you get the tires back on and the weight on the ground, aside from cinching the lug nuts up, is you got to torque this lower control arm bolt to 74 plus 90 degrees, which that plus 90 degrees will be pretty tricky under the vehicle here, but I got to hold the wrench.
How exciting. Let's see if I can get in it, boys.
Yeah, that's going to be the real thing.
I'll bring all this mud with me.
Does it feel any taller?
Yep, much taller.
Nice.
Easy peasy getting in now.
Good. Not like you're falling down in it anymore?
No, it's great.
Perfect.
It's perfect. Thank you.
All right, enjoy your test drive.
Okay.
We're gonna call that a wrap on the lift kit and new struts for the Renegade.
I'd call it a success, and it's looking better too.
It really wasn't too bad of a job.
All in all, pretty reasonable, but also still kind of exhausting. But thanks for watching.
Please like, share, and subscribe
Until next time,
on Brothers Fab and Adventure.